The Kyle Rittenhouse case and the judge himself are driving people insane. And I'm going to prove that to you today. Don't miss any of this video and make sure you hit that share button. This is Exhibit A because I saw a headline that says, "Oh my God, everybody's freaking out. The judge in the Kyle Rittenhouse trial made a racist joke." All right, let's go to the tape. Was he racist? Let's see.
Let's hope for 1 o'clock. I don't know. Hope the Asian food isn't coming. Isn't on one of those boats in Long Beach Harbor. But let's.
That's it. He made a boomer joke. I hope the Asian food isn't actually coming from Asia. And this guy is an absolute disgrace, says Aaron Rupar, one of the lead purveyors of misinformation on Twitter, which is saying something, friends. This is so insane. These people are melting down over this judge and what's happening in the courtroom with Kyle Rittenhouse, mostly because their preconceived notions that this case was going to be an open and shut one were absolutely wrong. And as a result, we got stuff like this. Here's Michael Tarm on Twitter. Rittenhouse jurors gave the first defense witness of the day a round of applause. Oh my God. They're applauding the defense witnesses. Now, this is a mistrial. This case is a mistrial. Let's start it over. Let's see why, though. Oh, they did this after Judge Schrader asked if anybody in the court had served in the military. When John Black said from the stand he had, the judge called for applause in recognition of Veterans Day. Oh, my God. Where are some pearls I can clutch? They saluted a veteran on Veterans Day in the courtroom. Whoa! These people are melting down. They are losing their minds. This is Hakeem Jeffries. He's a major figure in the Democratic Party. And he says, lock up Kyle Rittenhouse and throw away the key. Who needs a justice system? Folks, the future of the United States seems to be in great hands. And this is why I stay firmly in watch it burn territory, because lunatics like this are in charge of things, like actual things. Lock up Kyle Rittenhouse and throw away the key. Forget the jury. Forget everything else that's going on. My justice is the best justice, I guess. CBS Mornings with a tweet that has now been deleted, and you can see highlighted here. Kyle Rittenhouse testified in his murder trial yesterday, breaking down in tears as he told the jury he murdered 2 men at a Black Lives Matter protest last year in self-defense. Right there, back to back, murdered and protest. You know, being real generous on one side and not so generous on the other. And maybe that's a tell for the CBS Morning Show Twitter account. But they're going even crazier. I am telling you, this judge is short-circuiting people's brains. I don't know why race is such a big part of this case to begin with. It's really not. Kyle Rittenhouse is white, and everybody that he killed or shot, they're also white. So we don't really need to get that far into this. But here we have Ellie Mistel, I think, on Democracy Now! First, we'll start with Amy Goodman, the host, and how little these people know. They're purported experts on justice and the law who seem to know nothing at all about justice or the law. And I feel like that's important.
And the issue of not being able to refer to the men who were killed and the other one who was repeatedly shot as victims, though they could be referred to as looters or arsonists if the defense proves that.
So here's the thing, Amy. Any one of his decisions you could defend, right?
Okay.
Any one of his decisions, if you take it in isolation, makes sense. But this is actually one of the things that racists do, right? It's one of the fights that we.
One of the things that racists do. They do a bunch of things that you could defend, but when you group them all together, voila, presto bango, racism. These two either are lying to the audience or fail to understand the simple fact that referring to somebody as a victim in a courtroom goes back a long time in legal precedents is something that you don't do because it implies guilt on somebody who has not been proven guilty in a court of law. Maybe you didn't hear that, but you should be hearing this. I'm not a judge. I'm not somebody who's an expert in this field, but I know enough about it from stories I've done over the years to know what I'm saying is actually right. And as far as the rest of the statement from Amy Goodman and now what's being said by whoever this is, it's also rubbish because the judge said you could refer to them as rioters or looters if you proved that with testimony. Could you prove they were rioting by definition? Could you prove they were looting? And if you could, then you could refer to them as that because it makes sense. They're losing their minds. They're losing it.
Trying to explain what racism is to people. Because if you look at individual decisions, you can say like, oh, well, that wasn't racially biased or that decision wasn't racially biased.
But all of them.
But when you put them in, when you look at them all together, when you look at the totality of his decisions, right? So it's not just saying that these people can't be called victims. Look,
this gets even crazier. So I'm going to stretch this out just a little bit more because I want you to see how this justice correspondent from The Nation finishes out this interview on Democracy Now! It's important that you see how crazy this case is making people and how absolutely insane the judge is making people.
Legally speaking, they were victims of homicide. That's just a fact, but fine. You want to say they can't be called victims because of the nature of the self-defense defense? All right, you can kind of defend that decision.
Okay.
But then he says they can be called looters, rioters, and arsonists, which is ridiculous. The surviving victim hasn't been charged with looting, rioting.
If you prove in the courtroom that they're looters, rioters, or arsonists, otherwise you can't refer to them as that. Everybody feigns ignorance of how courtrooms work. Watch My Cousin Vinny or something. My God, this stuff is not that difficult. It doesn't take a rocket-fueled brain to understand some of this.
So calling him a victim is just factually inaccurate. So calling him a rioter is just factually inaccurate. So you see what I'm saying? When you put the 1 and 1 together, you end up with 2.
All right,
when you
right
put 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 together, you end up with 5. And that's what Schrader is. He has made a series of decisions. Each one perhaps may be individually defensible, but in totality lead to the impression of a biased, racist judge with his Trump rally cell phone. That is
my God. His cell phone, if you don't know this, went off in court, the judge, and it was Lee Greenwood's Proud to be an American the day before Veterans Day. What a MAGA-loving racist. These people are losing their minds. Let me show you more examples. This is another guest on Democracy Now!, just going into the deep end of crazy.
The other thing that I think is important is that the history of judges who are sympathetic to white supremacists has a very long history as well. One of the moments that really struck me yesterday was when the prosecutor was questioning Rittenhouse on his knowledge of ammunition and brought up the issue of hollow point bullets. And the judge actually interrupted and testified. I mean, Illy can maybe correct it for me. If I'm incorrect, I'm not a legal
Yeah, you are incorrect. The judge isn't testifying for him. The judge is having a conversation with the defendant and the attorney about what's happening in his courtroom because he's a judge. Maybe you should start looking into what judges do. Some folks don't even seem to know what happened in this case. This is the absolute craziness that passes for a show called Zerlina or whatever on MSNBC every day, where things have really, really gone downhill. Listen to this.
I'm having to take a lot of deep breaths through this show because the weight of history is heavy on me. I sit in front of my grandfather who marched in Selma, and so the weight of history in this moment is heavy. And I just keep thinking about, all of the folks who are afraid of the changing demographics, as you said, which I wrote a book about those changing demographics, and obviously there is that white backlash to that. But what are they afraid of that could be worse than black people being killed for absolutely no reason? And then the person who did it just gets to go home. They just get to go home. Nobody gets in trouble.
Nobody gets in trouble. They get to go home. The cops just let Kyle Rittenhouse go home. Kyle Rittenhouse didn't shoot anybody who was black. They're all white people. All of the people involved in this were white. They're losing their minds. And this guy, well, I mean, I don't have any explanation for this guy. But this is what some people who are watching this crap, they take away this from what they've watched from these programs.
Good morning, folks. It's me again on the 11th of November. This time I'm talking about, what's this guy's name?
Kyle Rittenhouse.
Rickenbacker.
Rittenhouse.
Rickenhauser.
Rittenhouse.
He's a German. Yeah, German descent. He's, in my opinion, a white supremacist that didn't like Jewish people in high school.
Oh.
You know, he was one of these, what can I say, sympathizers of the Third Reich.
Oh, okay. All right, fine. We figured it out. They're having a meltdown. These folks are losing it, man. I don't know. It's a thing to watch. You know, this is why the best path forward is watch it burn. Don't worry about the sides and the teams here. Just sit back and watch all the mayhem as it goes down. And that's what we're seeing here. This guy's frying brains up on that seat there. He is frying people's brains, and people are melting down as a result. And they're seeing how absolutely inept the prosecution is in trying to get stuff to stick against Kyle Rittenhouse. And maybe instead of just like going bananas, you could face the facts that maybe the case against him just sucks. Maybe the case is not that strong. And so in the system, you go by the law and by the rules of law. And if you can't get him, you can't get him. You don't melt down and say everybody who's part of this is a white supremacist. This is bananas. Let me know what you think in the comments below. And if you're watching it burn with me, I really appreciate you watching this video. If you're new around here, facebook.com/thenewsjunkie. Hit that follow button for videos just like this every single day. Over at youtube.com/thenewsjunkie. Hit subscribe. Thank you to my supporters. You can, on both platforms, support the show by subscribing for a little bit of money, and that helps buy equipment and all that good stuff in the studio. I appreciate you watching. As always, I'll look out for your comments. We'll talk to you again real soon.